Aloha. Today I wanted to jump off the last video and go a little deeper into the black hole theory or perspective and lock it into pretty much the business of trapping souls and relating it to the physical reality human experience a little bit more, because when I went into it in the last video, it was basically like an introduction to how I'm theorizing about this reality, and I wanted to just take it a little step further into some little perspectives that I've observed since then, since I've been thinking about it. So I'll share this video real quick, and that'll be a video or something that can set like a reference point as to where I'm coming from. So check out Bill Nye talking about consciousness in the brain, and yeah, check this out.
Hello, Bill. My name is Peter. I live in Miami, and I have a hypothetical question for you. If we could clone or build a human brain atom by atom so that the second brain was an exact copy of the first brain, and we decided to clone Bill Nye, my question is, would the second brain also be Bill Nye, or do you think consciousness transcends the physical structure and biochemical processes of the brain? Thank you.
If I understand your question, we make a replica of Bill Nye's brain, very troubling at some level. I don't think there's any consciousness or soul.
Teachers have souls. I go to church. I'm a Christian.
Or awareness that exists outside of our physical brains.
You don't know me. You're not God.
This is a very difficult question to answer. Extraordinary claims are made on both sides. The molecular people like me and the spiritual people like others.
You're not God. You don't know who has a soul and who doesn't, all right? I'm a Christian.
But there's no reason to think, for me, there's no reason to think there's something beyond the physical brain.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God, stop fucking lying.
And I say this because the experience I had with people as they grow old.
So that video is a good example of how the system, the slave mind, the spiritual warfare, the psychological warfare, and the physical warfare are all intertwined. You can see by how he asked, the guy asking the questions is already limited, has that limited perspective of, and this is why this question was picked up by Big Think and Bill Nye, because it's no different than the mainstream television programming. It's a conditioning model. So it's not just Bill Nye giving you information. It's the person asking you the question, how their perspectives are calibrated to be more personable for you as the viewer. So you are also getting a particular style of thought and style of being from these so-called regular Joes. So that's another thing about the psychology of Big Think, and not to mention the name Big Think. Who is the individual that's doing all the big think? This television scientist Bill Nye. So it's already a pedestal to be put up against you, the little thinkers. So you're getting a download or a program from the person asking the question. So ultimately it's a limitation based upon what is valid to be speaking about, how to be thinking, and where to channel your information. So before I go into Bill Nye, the questioner is asking Bill Nye a question about cloning and consciousness, as if the brain is all of the consciousness. He's basically just setting up Bill Nye, which is why they picked this question, because the mainstream scientism community is all about the physical reality. It's all about transhumanism, the expansion of the physical reality, which is the locking in of technology, so-called merging technology with the biology of humanity as the next evolutionary step from the monkey evolution program. It's an expansion, an extension of the illusion of the physical reality in the first place, just like another virtual reality within a virtual reality. It's a dream within a dream, a box within a box. So as long as you keep buying the doggy treats or the baby toys that are put out by this physics, quantum physics worshiping reality known as the scientism community, NASA, CERN, the government, and everything that they worship, which is a religion, it's a dominance and control religion. As long as you keep buying into their perspectives and don't transcend their perspectives and see what's really going on beyond that, then you lock yourself into whatever it is that those illusions are designed to do to you and to your future generations, because this is about stealing time, stealing consciousness, stealing your focus, which is the expansion of consciousness, which is the expansion outside of the haves and have-nots program, expansion outside of the dominance and control factor that allows these individuals to create artificial crowns for their artificial kingdom and ultimately become artificial gods within their artificial synthetic universe. So the heliocentric model is seen as a synthetic universe. Obviously, they just created it like a fairy tale, like a Shrek movie or something like this, and then you just live out your Princess Fiona and Shrek lifestyle in, this happily ever after reality. This is what's happening. Like I said in the last video, the Santa Claus program it's a clause for you to lock yourself into the Jesus clause. And then after that, you can, if you're not comfortable with the Jesus clause, then you're gonna lock yourself into the scientism clause, and that's the atheism clause. So you're in all of these control grids based upon your peer groups, because since we have heavily externalized our reality based upon materialism and the artificial ego, we don't have any true connection with the soul essence. Everything that we are and everything that we think we are is based upon outside perspectives. So this is everything that the scientism community is. This is everything that the middleman of religious programming and mainstream religion programs are. This is everything that even the scientism or the scientism perspectives of the flat earth in the upcoming future, all of this is going to be based upon a limitation program, because it will still be coming at it from the physical perspective. We will never go into, or the system will never go into the soul perspective, because that can't be controlled. This is why the New Age agenda is out there to create this buffer zone, and just like a middleman between you and your soul connection. It's just a new religion. It's a new, and that's caked with, laced with the alien agenda and the expansion or extension of the heliocentric model from a so-called, like, an artificial or synthetic soul perspective, when they tell you that, your alien creators created this experience, and you are this and you are that, and when you go into like these new age communities, you can see how they're all like very open to the idea of aliens and all this other stuff, and it's already like it's a welcoming sort of thing. You don't really have the other side of that. Like I walked by a store, I saw a book the other day that says or a poster somewhere the other day that says visitors are welcome with a picture of an alien, so-called alien on there. I'm like, who the fuck made you the ambassador for this experience? Like, what the hell do you think? Like, what about other people who are looking at that image and like, and thinking like that's a fucking demon, or that's some kind of, not like, okay, so if this reality is so jacked up, then you have to understand that there is a huge potential that even in alien civilizations, this is given the benefit of the doubt of the whole alien everything. In alien civilizations, they're going to be just as jacked up as this experience, if not worse. Now also look at the fact that if there is an alien civilization that finds itself coming to a low vibrating consciousness like the Earth plane, do you think that they will be coming here to ultimately benefit the system, or will they be coming here to benefit themselves in some kind of way based upon the level of consciousness? Now, given that, you're going to have people who are going to say, yes, they are here to benefit. And then you're going to have the people who say, oh, well, hell no, they're here. So my point is, the main perspective of the New Age community is welcoming. It is not at all even looking at the other side of the perspective, which is, fuck these aliens or whatever. Like, what the hell do they have to do? Like, why can't we do this shit ourselves? Like, what is our responsibility to our own experience? Why do we need some external whatever to do anything? It's our responsibility, and largely it's when you come at it from the soul perspective and you start to disassemble. We have an abundance of resources here. It's all just being channeled into the illusions of illusionists who mean to dominate and control. So the escape mechanism for that is the New Age agenda and this alien savior program. It's the same thing. It's no different than the Jesus Savior program. It's all a program to take your power away and channel that energy into something that is outside of you, another external program. So this is another virtual reality within a virtual reality, another box within a box. So it's all, and like I said in the beginning, this is all based upon you coming from the perspective of density, never coming from the perspective of your soul. So like that video was explaining from the Bill Nye perspective, like, so that pretty much goes into like the questioner of that Bill Nye video. Now going into, because that's supposed to be like the people, this is how the people think. These are the perspectives that the people come from. Like even like the Scientology program is just another design, just like the mainstream religions and just like the transhumanism and scientism community as a whole. It's a business. It's a business of density, a business of dominance, a business of deception and control to make a profit off of people who have nothing else to hold on to. And when you see that, then you can see that Scientology is heavily ingrained in the Hollywood programming. So all of these actors who are believing in this system, this artificial universe, are channeling that energy and that information and those perspectives out to the masses through these movies. It's maintaining and adding density into the consciousness. This is what this entire experience is about. Adding a commercial, like it's the business of trapping souls, the business of densifying your reality. So the biggest businessmen in this entire experience, in this black hole of densifying your perspective, because this is the perspective I'm coming from. If you haven't watched the other black hole video, the black hole perspective of this earth plane is basically the soul is being trapped in the physical reality to have an experience so that it can escape the physical reality from the perspective or the energy or the power of the soul perspective, the soul connection. So this is why death is so demonized. When, if I were to ask you, do you love life? The majority of people would say yes. Now I would ask you, do you love death? The people would have trouble or some kind of hesitation with that because of how we've been locked into this. Now, this is not saying like force your death in any kind of way and anything like that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that your birth into this reality is no different than your so-called death in this reality. So your sunrise is no different than your sunset in this experience. The main point is that you had an experience. What you did with that experience and your relationship to time, your relationship to consciousness, your relationship to your emotional body, your subtle bodies, your higher mind, your soul, mind, and body perspective, and how you related to other people's soul, mind, and body perspective. All of this is tied into how you experience your reality and how the fullness, that the true fullness that you have from the soul fullness. Like this empty physical reality, the illusion is like the 0.005% of your maximum potential of a soul fullness. So it does have some meaning and purpose in the whole fullness reality. The physical reality does. But on the larger percentages of your experience, you as the soul have the potential of channeling your energy from a soul perspective, or channeling your energy from like a soul imagination, creative perspective, or channeling that energy from density or artificially egoic perspective. And that's what I'm really seeing, how this reality is really being limited. Since we've been completely polarized into the perspective of serving the self and really just paying attention to only your artificial ego, yourself, provide for yourself, the American dream, don't give a shit about anybody else, be apathetic to everybody who's digging out the resources out of the ground, those 8-year-old little boys and girls in Africa who are digging out the cobalt out of the ground to make the batteries in your smartphones. See, all of these Samsung commercials, these Nokia commercials, these Apple, all these commercials about, how great technology is. That's another conditioning program to make you apathetic towards what added up to that smartphone, and also worship the smartphone perspective or the monkey evolution perspective as the end all be all of reality. So it's a double-edged sword. And when you just completely buy into it and then distract yourself with like social media and all this stuff, then you are adding more density subconsciously, inherently subconsciously, when you don't pay attention to it. So when I say stuff like that to people on the streets or whatever, and then they say, well, don't you use a cell phone? And I'm saying, yes, I exist. Well, I don't have a smartphone, but I exist in the physical reality and as the soul perspective. The difference is from who I used to be and who I am now is that I am now anchored in every thought and every piece of my creative experience is anchored from the soul perspective, and helping people expand from the soul perspective. That's what I'm saying. I'm not asking anybody to like change from the physical perspective. It's really just sharing examples of how we can change from the soul perspective that will inherently shift the physical reality. Like I said, before it manifests in the mind, it first manifests in the soul, whatever it is. And then before it manifests in the body, it manifests in the mind. So everything comes from the soul to the mind to the body. When you come from that perspective, then that's when you can actually change. You might not see it right now because it takes so much longer for stuff to materialize in the physical reality, but that goes into your trust factor, or for people who come from a religious perspective, the faith factor of knowing that from the essence, where I'm saying is that it's a knowingness from the essence of who and what you are, that what you're doing matters. It has an actual effect. And also knowing that everything that you're doing is your experience. It's not about the, if you were born into like this whole greatness, and it's not about how you died. It's about the experience as a whole. It's like, because people can be born into an experience of so-called greatness and not do anything with that experience. They could just like piss it all away, or just serve it only for themselves. They don't really do anything for others. So do you really expand your consciousness when you come from that perspective? In my opinion, no. Ultimately, it does have an effect, but that really that comes from, like what I was saying before about the 0.005% in relation to the 99th umpteenth perspectives of the 99th percentile of your actual soul being channeled into each thought, each action, each creative experience that is your true potential. So the black hole experience is about densifying your reality, because the your that I'm talking about is the your that is your soul, not your physical reality, because that is part of, if not the biggest part of the entire trap of the soul. So this black hole is just constantly sucking souls into this experience simply to see how much energy it can parasite off of the Most High essence. So this is ultimately what the entire experience is based upon: soaking people for the benefit of the few. And it does it with illusions, the illusions of the dinosaur program, the evolution theory, the NASA the heliocentric model, the Queen of England, the dominating, the control, the fear, the low vibrations of your experience. This is how it's all being channeled into the trap program. This can be directly compared to the soul being apparently trapped. It's not really trapped, to just use this words. It's just having an experience, but being trapped in the body. We see it as trapped because we don't understand what this experience really is. We still have a fear of death. We still have a misunderstanding of death. We still have a misunderstanding of life, because from like ancestral perspectives, your mortal experience is actually a death experience. You're actually dead when you're in the physical body, because they have been anchored in the perspectives that you are your soul. So when you die, you transition back into your soul essence. That's your actual life. So this adds, in my opinion, credibility to the black hole experience of density being the gravity, in a sense, of the heliocentric model, because gravity is worshipped as the god of this reality. It's really, when you come from the gravity perspective, it's pulling everything to the center of the earth. And the center of what? The heliocentric earth, the globe earth. So it's pulling everything to the center of the illusion, the trap. So that's no different when you come at it from the black hole perspective of like the flat earth and us being in a black hole. But not only in a black hole, your body is a black hole. This physical reality is birthed from your physical body is birthed from the physical earth. So your chemical, your elemental makeup is made up of the earth itself. So if the black hole, or if the flat earth is a black hole experience, then that means to trap a collective of souls, then that means that your body is actually a black hole baby, a baby black hole. So you have baby black holes birthing baby black holes. And then you can go into, if you want a physical representation of what this is, look at how you experience your reality, how you see this black hole. Look at your eyes. What's at the center of your eyes? You have that black dot. You have your pupil. So your pupil is basically your student. Your body is your student. Your body is your child, and you as the soul are the parent, guiding your pupil through this black hole experience constantly as the higher mind, guiding yourself along with the assistance of your ancestors in the Most High out of this black hole, which is not only the physical reality but is actually the body. So the trap is the illusion is to maintain that you are the body, you are the physical reality. And that's what that Bill Nye video was largely programmed to do. You have the questioner saying, well, if we were to clone your brain, if we were to clone Bill Nye, then, would that be the same consciousness or whatever? Is that, do you think that there's something beyond the brain and all that other stuff? So that's, first of all, to set up Bill Nye, because if Bill Nye says that, he sounds like some mad scientist, crazy person to most people. So they have to use regular Joe people to actually put out that information with their own voice, with their regular Joe perspective, and then allow the scientism magicians to agree with it to make it reality. So they agree with it and then they expand it. So, but if he were to actually go onto an interview and say that shit, then it will take on this different tone. This is how these magicians and these illusionists work. And this is what Hollywood is as a whole. Hollywood puts these movies about NASA and monkey evolution and transhumanism. They put it out there. So that's not the government actually saying it. It's the actors who work for the government who are actually saying it. It's all one big design to trap you with these alternative facts, pretty much. It's like an alternative fact infinity, the black hole density experience. So once people buy into these illusions after illusions after illusions after illusions, we get generations who are now so enveloped in the illusion that they now start to birth illusions, which is like baby black holes birthing baby black holes who will suck the life out of other souls who in any kind of way challenge the black hole experience and say, look, I'm not this bullshit ass illusion physical reality. I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid of challenging this system. I'm not afraid of being ridiculed in any kind of way. Fuck this shit. You guys need to understand that there's way more other sides of this reality than just what these magicians are telling you. So this Bill Nye perspective, when he goes on there and says the brain, the consciousness, there's nothing beyond the brain. There's no consciousness. It actually stops at the brain. That is the death. That is the living dead experience. That is the black hole experience being verbalized into a scientific word or sentence or paragraph. And then he just expands upon that with these shallow ass perspectives of, you know why it doesn't go past the brain? Because I've seen old people, and when old people get old, their consciousness starts to shrink in some kind of way. And it's just sad when I see that. So this is why consciousness doesn't expand past the brain, because once the brain starts to deteriorate, then really your consciousness just starts to deteriorate as well. So no, the consciousness doesn't expand past the brain. It's all about the brain. That is some shallow ass bullshit that people are just gonna soak up. They're just gonna eat it up because Bill Nye said it. Another actor, another piece of shit person put out there to add density to the experience. And ultimately, that is the spiritual warfare that's going on. This is why the university system has to push atheism and has to have the villain of religion to make them the superhero. So science becomes the superhero if religion is the villain. And then it's just another way of densifying the reality. No different than back in the day when religion was the superhero against the witches or the occultists of the past, like everybody that was demonizing, who was demonized, who was thinking outside of the religion program, because the religion program was just it was backed by the kings and the queens who were conquering the land. They were just out there just killing people and destroying. This is what literally happened to the indigenous and aboriginal people, and is still happening today. They're just calling it something else. They're just saying, oh, well, instead of genociding them, which is still really going on right now. Look at what's happening at Papua New Guinea. But it's largely it's happening on a psychological warfare level, where they're saying that, this is not, your ancestors they weren't smart. They weren't anything that, relates directly to the pyramids. That all came from alien technology. There was some aliens who came down and built the pyramids and influenced this and did this with Machu Picchu and all this other stuff. So it's a psychological genocide, and the spiritual genocide is happening when you have people like Bill Nye go on to Big Think and tell you that consciousness is limited by the fatty tissue of the brain. So basically, you have no soul. And the reason why he can say that is because he's been debating the religious program, which is the front man for the soul experience. It's the commercial soul, no different than Scientology as the commercial, like the McDonald's religion or the McDonald's programming. It's all one big illusion to trap you further and further and further into the density program. So when Bill Nye gets on there and tells you that consciousness is limited by a fatty tissue, then, and you believe that because you believe him, then you're dead. And in fact, you're not only dead, you're afraid of what happens after you die. So you're like twice dead. You're living in fear, which is dead. And then when you're getting ready to transition into your sunset, then you're like scared. So you're going to be scared when you transition. And all of this is because of, how the illusion was set up in the first place. So these black hole, this is how the black hole experience works. It just densifies your reality over and over and over again. The CERN program, the Mandela effect being channeled straight into the CERN program is just another way of adding density to your perspective of reality and consciousness, and how the non-physical brain or the non-physical experience works. It just channels all of this information into the dense experience and then says, well, you know what? If the Mandela effect is being experienced by all these people, it's not because the people are now raising their vibrations and being more perceptive of their reality and could possibly be shifting their timelines in reality because they are activating a higher a higher vibration, a higher consciousness within this black hole, it's not because of that. It's because the scientists at CERN are messing with the quantum reality. And because they have, put these photons around a 17-mile circle and crashed them together, another destructive Big Bang program trying to prove their illusions to themselves, which is just a show anyway. It's a Hollywood show anyway. It's only to have something to say that we need to channel billions of dollars of tax money into the kings and queen have and have not system so that we can continue to innovate. And this is the big word of Bill Nye, the innovators of humanity. No, they're not innovating. They're de-evolving and creating stop signs and speed bumps in the expansion of consciousness so that they can continue to soak out millions and billions of dollars of tax money, which is energy when it's programmed that way, because it's directly related to your human resources, your very well-being on this entire experience. So this is how there is no separation between the church and the state, the university and the public education system, the NASA programming, the prison and military industrial complex, the alien agenda, the New Age agenda, the CERN agenda. All of these agendas are one storyline. Hollywood, it's all one big mind control program to add density to your experience, trapping you in the black hole for as long as you allow it to be, because you just allow it to be your experience, because you have nothing else to be rooted in. So what else did I have written down? So basically painting a canvas. So in relation to your death, your idea of death, what's happening is your soul is painting a canvas, which is your experience. It's painting blind in a sense, because your physical reality doesn't have the perspective largely of the soul. It has to abide by the rules of the physical reality. This is why we have glimpses of your soul in psychedelic experiences. In your dreams, you have glimpses of your subconscious infinity, your higher mind, the you that you really are. You have glimpses of this reality in order to allow you to continue expanding. Because if you're just trapped in a desert of nothingness, the black hole of nothingness, then you just will be dead. But when you come from the perspective of the physical reality, then everything is about the physical reality, and the minority of your perspective is the soul, which is what we are experiencing today as a whole, which is what's being amplified by people like Bill Nye, who are telling you that the consciousness as a whole is only limited to the brain. Not only does it limit your perspective and your connection to the soul when you believe yourself into that reality, what also it does, it builds up the transhumanism perspective of merging man with machine. It builds up the scientism perspective into God. It builds scientists who are in the scientism reality into God. Because like that individual said, if we can just clone Bill Nye, then can we create another Bill Nye? He doesn't say no. He largely says yes without saying, he largely says yes without saying yes, because he said no to the alternative. He said no to the fact that consciousness goes beyond the brain. So that adds credibility to the scientism community being able to reproduce consciousness or the brain as consciousness, making them out to be your God. And when they are your God, then you cannot challenge anything that they say. This is why it's so difficult to say anything outside the heliocentric model to challenge Bill Nye or Neil deGrasse Tyson, because they put these little big think videos out there that are subconsciously controlling you and programming you to think and act a certain way that worships them as your God. No different than the religious programming having you worship the Jesus program from the supremacy program and so on and so forth. This is all one storyline, depending on how you want to experience. If you want to experience from a racist perspective or a racial perspective, go ahead. If you want to experience it from a protesting political perspective, that will be your choice. If you want to experience it from worshiping the scientists, that will be your universe. If you want to experience it from the religious programming, channeling all of your consciousness and your entire soul into a middleman between you and the experience as a whole, that will be your experience. And it's very, very subtle. I just watched this movie called The Shack that just came out recently the other day. It's about this guy who lost his daughter in the woods, and he has this God connection experience, and it's based upon the Christian perspective. And one thing that I really wanted to mention, basically he meets God, but it's God in three forms: a younger man, a younger woman, and an older woman who actually can be transitioned into an older man too at the same time. So the younger man is supposed to represent Jesus, because this is all based upon the Christian church perspective. And this is how I'm telling you this stuff gets channeled into a way of you thinking that you're expanding and becoming closer to the soul and so on and so forth, but it's not. It's basically just a commercial version of that, and I'll show you how in a second. So this guy represents Jesus. He's the Son of God. And then you have the woman who represents basically like the female Jesus, and she's the God of creation. So you have them two, the masculine and the feminine. Then you have the spirit as a whole, which is they're all one thing and just being divided into anything. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, this guy who's completely pissed off, he's rightfully his daughter was kidnapped and murdered in this movie. So he's lost. He's gone. He's completely in the sunken place, pretty much. And I'll get into that in a second, because this whole reality is pretty much the sunken place for people who are asking me to talk about Get Out. I just reminded myself. I'll go into that in a second. So anyway, stay on track. The guy represents that person, and then the young lady represents creation or the physical reality and that whole thing, and then you have the God. So towards the end of the movie, the guy says, he says something about, being with me. I hope you guys are always with me, or something like that. And then the Jesus representation says, I always am. So he says, I always am. And then the younger woman who represents creation says, I always was. So he represents the present. She represents the past, or the physical reality, the birthing of the experience, the creation that is already dead, pretty much. Anything that you create in this physical reality is already dead in a sense. It's because it's, you see where I'm coming from. It's not of the soul. It's largely of the physical reality. If you've created it in the physical reality, it's manifested into the physical reality. But first, it had to exist in the thought form. Before that, it had to exist in the soul, channeling that energy into a thought, into the physical reality. So it's deteriorating as it's created. This is what your body does when you are born or alive in this experience and then dies. You're on a dying process, or a densified process for the experience. So getting back to the point, He says, I always am. She says, I always was. And the person who represents so-called God or the Most High in this movie says, I always will be. So that is the future. So you have the past, the present, and the future. So will be is based upon how you, the everything that you, this whole movie is saying that everything that you are, everything that you were, and everything that you will be is all a manifestation of the Most High. So you get that essence subconsciously, and if you have any kind of connection with the solar perspective of the soul, you get that consciously. So what happens right after that? They channel that straight into the church. So now he goes back to the church and he becomes this, follower of the Christian faith and so on and so forth. And everything that was said that is from a soul perspective, philosophical understanding of your reality, boom, they just channel it straight into the church, and that's it. So you have all these people who were thinking that they were having this this great experience, and then no, this is a condition, it's a program. They're trying to make you think. So not only do you channel that energy into the church, because you're going to have so many people who are like, that movie so affected me, it's so greatly that I'm going to go back to church and I'm going to do this and I'm going to give my everything to Jesus and so on and so forth. So hey, to each his own. Everybody's going to do whatever it is they're going to do. I'm not knocking everybody for how they approach their soul experience. I'm just sharing how I experience my reality. So, but that's a condition that is being manipulated by them. Not only that, they get people to believe in that, but they also get people to believe in the Hollywood program. So you believe these actors, and it's the same actor, the main actor, the guy in that movie is the same actor from Avatar. So you have the main guy from Avatar. So you have everybody who's making these correlations with Hollywood and so forth, which is automatically connected to the government, automatically connected to politics, and it just adds credibility to this entire experience, the psychological experience, which is largely adding credibility to the physical experience, the density program. So this is all to play you into locking yourself into the sunken place. This black hole physical reality is the sunken place in the movie Get Out. The way that the guy in Get Out got into the sunken place, and the way that those people who were hypnotized to live an entire experience based upon a hypnosis was they played with the senses. So she's stirring that cup of tea. It's a hypnosis, like a vibration. Like, this is what the movies are. This is what your music is. This is what your politics are. This is what the public education system is. This is what the scientism community is. It's a stirring of that tea to lock you into that perspective from a cue of some sort. So you have the visual cue, you have the hearing cue. There's a word for that, and I can remember. Then you have the forceful cue of like believing, and she says go, like she forces him into that sunken place. So his eyes are being hypnotized, like the clock going back, the hand watch going back and forth, or the pocket watch going back and forth, like the old school hypnosis. Hypnotized by that, hypnotized by the sound, hypnotized by her putting him in that emotional body experience of the death of his mother, when he has been locked down by his psychological consciousness, his visual consciousness, and his, what's the word for ear? The ear hearing. What you know what I'm talking about. Man, I'm on a roll, so I can't really slow it down to think of what that word is. What is the word? Anyway, okay. So the eyes, the ears, and the psyche. boom, you're in hypnosis. Now, once he's in that sunken place, he's trapped. So how is that any different from the physical reality as a whole? This is what I'm seeing for people who are asking me about, like, to do not a reaction video or expand upon Get Out. I did reference it in one video where I used the teacup as like a metaphor for what I just said right now, but that's basically what I see this movie was about. I mean, that's what it was all based upon, from the deepest perspective that I can go. And that's not to take away from Get Out bringing to the surface the organ harvesting of the inner cities, the so-called black communities, and so on and so forth. All of that is very real, but largely, like I said about the Shack movie, it's to add credibility to Hollywood as a whole. You think things are changing. You think that there are good people in the system. You think all this stuff because one movie said one thing about some things and so on and so forth. You don't even see the side effects that are really going on, which are also intentional and are also a part of the conditioned program as a whole, is how many racist ass perspectives were and conversations and interactions were triggered after that movie. That shit's all on purpose too. So this program, this mind control conditioning program, plays all. It's the house. It's the casino. The house always wins. Excuse me. Every movie or every table in the casino that's played for you to play or put out there for you to play, it doesn't matter what it is. It's the casino itself. Is the house is always going to win. So there's a benefit to the Hollywood system. There's a benefit to the government system and the racial division programming when these movies get put out there. No different than there's a benefit to the church when the Shack gets put out there. There's a benefit to the black hole experience overall when we buy into these illusions, because it's just made to densify your reality. So this is the sunken place. The black hole experience is the sunken place, and we are being hypnotized by the colonial, not only the colonial program, but this is just like the destructive low vibrations program of fear, dominance, and control, conquering the lands, demonizing the indigenous and the aboriginal people, which inherently demonizes your relationship to nature, which demonizes your connection to the soul, and so on and so forth. It adds credibility to the monkey evolution program. It adds credibility to the heliocentric model, and everything gets amplified because we continue to limit ourselves to what the movie is talking about and don't look at the movie theater itself. We don't analyze it from that perspective because there aren't too many people who are strong enough to be vulnerable enough in that space. It's a lonely path to venture out on your own and go out there. Like, I've lost a lot of friends in a sense to where not really lost them, but I'm not as close to them as I used to be. A lot of people want to stay away from me a lot of ways because of, just the perspectives that I come from. Like I have no problems with talking about flat earth with anybody. And when I even mention that, I'm automatically no different than what happened to Kyrie Irving and what happened to Shaq before he recanted his perspectives on flat earth. But it's the same thing. Oh, come on. Are you just something wrong with you? Are you crazy? Don't you see boats go over the horizon? Haven't you seen pictures of Earth from space? And I mean, and then, then I got to go through all that shit. Like I got to go through all of that stuff that I've already put into like There's over like 500, pushing 600 videos on this channel now. So I got to do that when I'm out walking around trying to, relax or, be out of that space for a moment. And, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that people don't see this other side. They don't see that's going on because largely people are locked into their own perspective, their own emotional body, themselves. And that goes back to what I said before. Nothing will really change until we see this entire experience from the perspective of the soul. If we continue, that's truly the level of consciousness that we have to get into in order to make some real change. This goes into the quote of nothing will change from the same level of consciousness that created the problems in the first place. So the physical reality, in a sense, in one perspective, is a problem that was created from the separation from the Most High, from the separation from the soul. It's to trap the soul. So as long as we keep trying to fix the problem from the tools and the perspectives of the problem, then we are the problem. We're going to be an expansion of the problem. That's what the New Age agenda is all about. That's what the monkey evolution and the heliocentric and SpaceX and all that NASA programming, CERN, that's what all that stuff is about. It's to take what is natural, stuff like the Mandela effect, and how I'm seeing that's like a natural thing on its most basic level. People are observing their reality like from a higher perspective. Just when you're starting to see that things are changing and that things can change, that is a shift in consciousness. It doesn't have to be labeled any kind of way as something. Just being able to experience that is one big shift in consciousness that is very real. Now, to take it a step even further, when I perceive it, that is a part of our reality because we are balancing out our connections from the soul perspective. We are balancing out the relationship between the positive and the negative, the electric and magnetic, the divine feminine and divine masculine, and the side effects are more something in your experience, and more something is like the Mandela effect. The other thing is there is a split. People who are going to believe into that artificial reality, they're going to believe themselves into that synthetic universe because that is the experience that they have chosen. That is the universe that they want to live in. People in the New Age community need the Pleiadians. They need the Andromedans. They need the Arcturians. They need all of that universal connection as their relationship to the soul, and they'll get there. However you get there is at your own pace, at your own time, in your own way. There's no judgments or comparisons in how. The reasons why I share how jacked up these ways are to get there is because this is how I'm perceiving that a lot of these things are just set up as traps to ultimately keep you from going on that path and really getting closer to yourself, your soul self. And it's largely it's no different than if somebody were to ask me, should I go into the army? You were in the army for 7 years. Should I go into the army? And then, it's no different than me telling like a response about the New Age or sharing information on the internet about the New Age. Like, no. Stay away from that shit. That's a trap. It's selling you something, but you're largely losing something. You're signing a contract of your life away to an illusion, and you're getting the illusion of getting something out of that, but it's largely being channeled into a destructive program. So, what else did I write down? The body is a virtual reality for the soul. This is the sunken place. Pretty much covered all that stuff. This is the Sunken Place. Oh, the Westworld. I'm gonna watch the Westworld sometime soon and see where they're really coming from. But like I said about the movies and how they add credibility to make you think like things are changing, it's the same thing. Westworld, it has to release partial truth in order for you to believe in the other part of that partial truth, which is the illusion. And what's locked into that illusion is believing into the power grid that gives you those partial truths and gives you those illusions to begin with. So that's a double-edged sword there. So you believe in the program who's delivering, administering these prescription drugs of how you experience your reality, and also thinking things are changing. But it also hands out this artificial truth, which is no different than like the channelers that I shared in the last video. And in relation to the last video, all of this dense programming is to create a synthetic universe, future timelines, probable timelines, like the probable timeline syndrome, based upon shrinking down the consciousness, soaking, parasiting off of the conscious beings who are locked into the sunken place. No different than Get Out, the movie Get Out. What are those people who bought those people who were kidnapped? Who bought those people who were hypnotized? The people in Get Out who are hypnotized, who are now having another consciousness, basically a non-physical parasite installed into a body. How is that any different than what is going on today? A parasite, a mainstream supremacist, colonial, separating from nature, locking you into the density black hole program parasite, soaking you out of your soul perspective. This is the entire physical reality, including your body, when you come from the perspective of the body. How you perceive your reality, through your eyes, through your ears, through your nose, through your mouth, through your psyche, and everything else, through your emotions, everything is being played to make you think yourself into the synthetic universe. And that's the conscious side. This is why you are separated from your dreams, because subconsciously your infinite energy that your spirit, your soul is being channeled into future timelines, which I said in the video about, or earlier this video about the shack, where she says, supposedly God says, I always will be. That is the future timeline that you are creating with your subconscious infinity. That right after they say that, the next image is him going back to church. That is the future timeline they want. They want you to be passive. They want you to channel your energy through a middleman, whether it's the church, whether it's the university system, Bill Nye, Neil deGrasse Tyson, whether it's Barack Obama, Donald Trump, the New Age, New World Order, whether it's the channelers, whether it's the Pleiadians, the Andromedans, the alien agenda, the CERN program, whatever it is. It's not you. It's not your soul. It's something based upon this physical reality that is a black hole sunken place to trap your soul. And I don't want to make it seem like it's like a hopeless or a helpless perspective, because every day I'm still happy. Like, I'm still happy in doing what I'm doing. So there's something, like, even though I'm talking about all this stuff, there's something to this. There's something that there's like a soul happiness that you have when you live your life from the soul perspective, when you root yourself from the essence of the soul. There's a depth there. It's not commercial. It's not synthetic. All this materialistic happiness that people get from buying all this stuff and having these shallow ass relationships and even creating baby black holes, little babies, and having their family and all that stuff. Even that, if you can raise an entire family. Like, for example, I didn't, when I was raised, I had no connection with, no understanding of the Most High. No, my parents were not connected to the church in any kind of way. Their parents were heavily ingrained in that perspective in many ways, but my parents kind of ran away from that experience and channeled, and created a space where, it wasn't for us. It just allowed us to do whatever it is that, have our own experience. It was difficult as shit because we didn't really have much guidance, but, we all choose our reality, and that's what we chose. So, in the long run, as long as you continue being who and what you are, like staying true to yourself, which is what my family was really all about. Just, stay true to yourself, be cool with people, be good as good as you can be. And then, things will present themselves to you as your experience expands. So having gone through that experience and having seen and done what I've done, and then cross-referenced it with my parents and my grandparents and my ancestors before that, then you can see a perspective that is not really weighed down by the densities of judgments and the expectations that people put on you, even about the physical reality. It's an experience. Your death is no different from your being born into this reality. It's about this experience, and then the more you fill up this experience with awareness and a perspective from the soul, the more you'll be able to challenge this black hole living dead experience and actually do something about it. One of the main reasons why I share a lot is because I want to see what happens when this happens on a large scale, when people start to disassemble the limitations, like remove this parasite from their experience and see what happens. You never know. Like there could be some kind of giant shift that's going on. I don't know. I know that it was beneficial for me to let go of the densities that I had from the military, from the Occupy protesting, thinking that, the system can be fixed and all this other stuff, and getting out of the desire program and that whole thing, desiring of the physical reality, desire. That's another big part of the transition, because the desire is part of anchoring you in this physical reality. So if you have a heavy desire for relationship, like having a relationship in the American dream and, making babies and that whole thing, that's not to be like emotionally dead or anything. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that there's a difference between being rooted in that perspective and aware of that reality from a soul perspective, and being subjected to the desire energetic root system or programming of that reality. See, before people even can see that perspective, we are locked into these realities by our peers. Everybody's having babies. Everybody's locked into the heliocentric model. Everybody's got a good job, a good this, a good that. Like, everybody's got all of this stuff that you're an outsider for not having or not abiding by. And something happens when you break out of that experience. Things get lighter. I mean, your consciousness literally expands at a higher velocity, and you get more out of the life that you're living. You're not just living to survive. You're not just being alive, living to be alive. You have a reason and a purpose in why you wake up every morning. There's information that comes through your dreams. There's connections that come through your dreams. Once you slow down, once you release all of these prescription drugs and all the limitations of the physical reality, it actually makes your awareness of the physical reality deeper and closer, and you become more aware of it. So yeah, once all this stuff gets broken apart, then it's easier to live your life. But before it gets easier, it gets hard, because you have to in a sense destroy what you thought you were and who you think you are, in order to truly find out what your soul truly is and what your experience truly is. So most people see that challenge. They see that destruction that needs to happen. They see the loss of friends. They see the vulnerable space of, going against the system, going against the grain. And most people just say, I'll just hang out right here. I'll just chill out right here. This is cool. I'm comfortable with this. The heliocentric models is a comfortable place. The New Age community is a comfortable place. It's either intellect or the version of your soul that you choose. And it's easy. It's easy for the New Age community, say, it's all about these aliens. They're going to come down and save everything. And, it's a rest area. And as long as people are hanging out in those rest areas, once the mainstream agenda activates it, whether you come from, waiting for the flat earth to go mainstream or waiting for the aliens to come down and save everything, whatever your perspective is, it's not your perspective. You're waiting on something else. No different than the religious program waiting on Jesus to come down and save everything. So you're waiting inside of a black hole. You're waiting inside of the sunken place. My question is, what happens when we stop waiting and start engaging from the inside out as opposed to the outside in? So that's pretty much what I wanted to share with this video. So thank you for joining me. And until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.